Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Mulligan's Library Podcast. This is going to be our official episode 1 of the podcast, and we have a lot to talk about today. With me today, I have Heartless, Short Beach, and Almond Joy, and you guys might know me as Ryzerker. So, what'd you guys do over the week? Play any Bandai card games?
Yeah, we had our One Piece locals and our Union locals this past week.
So about 14 people at our One Piece locals, which we had 2 top 3s and top half. So
yeah, so 14 is pretty large for our area. Honestly, we don't get that a whole lot. Sometimes we use Sunday locals and Wednesday locals. Sometimes Wednesdays will climb up there, but Sunday 14 is our biggest we've had in a minute. I was able to go undefeated 4-0 with Usopp. And I believe, what did you go?
I had 3rd with Yamato, green-yellow Yamato.
And then you...
I want to say I went 3-1. I might have went 2-2. I don't remember.
I think you were 2-2.
Yeah.
2-2 with...
Because you would have had...
Because I lost to you.
Mm-hmm.
And then...
You lost your...
And then what were you
playing?
playing?
I lost to the Boa.
And what were you playing?
Yeah. I was playing Kid. And Boa versus Kid is a horrible matchup. I will just say that.
I mean, post-banless Boa,
It is
still effective.
Yeah, no, it's terrifying.
Because that was, what, your last round game?
That was my last. That was the finals. It was me and Boa. And honestly, Usopp is... Everybody was super high on him at first when he first got revealed. And everybody was looking to build him because he's blue-black. And that's probably the most powerful combination of colors in One Piece, I would say. So they were excited to experiment around with it, but I think the hype very quickly died off.
Yeah, I've heard people just not saying too great things about Usopp right now. But
yeah, in my opinion, the biggest issue is consistency, and we're heading...
Which is crazy for a blue-black deck in consistency, because that's like...
A mono-type blue-black deck. Dressrosa is every card, right?
Yeah, I have... I think there are 3 cards in my whole deck that I can't search.
Oh, well.
So, like, that's one of the things, is, like, every card can be searched. Now, there's another problem if I don't see my searchers.
Yeah.
I run 8 of those. So, it's just little nuances like that. That's been my biggest complaint, is consistency. And then, of course, 4 life leader. Since he is blue-black, 2 colors usually get 4 lives, and there's a lot of 5 life leaders being heavily considered right now and heavily played.
But obviously consistent enough to go 4-0.
Yeah, that I got. My first matchup was against Yamato, and second one was the new Smoker leader, which is terrifying. And then third one was Yellow Kid. Fourth one was the Boa Finals, and just Usopp's ability by base just helps with that. With all your Dressrosa characters get +1, and all my characters are Dressrosa, so them trying to bounce Law doesn't work. Jozu, some of the characters, doesn't work, and even the higher cost 7 cost Dofi that can bounce a 7 cost doesn't bounce my 7 cost because they're all 8 cost. So that just that just makes them stick, and I'm able to just keep dishing out what I can and go from there. And yeah, that really helped. And thankfully, the winner card I got was the Rebecca Searcher that goes in that deck, so that went right in. So that was
So is that something you're gonna probably keep bringing to locals, or?
I think so. I'm gonna keep trying it. I definitely want to play test it more, but I am also play testing Bonnie a little bit, and then RP Luffy, because Reiju is my main deck. Just like by default, I love that deck. It's so much fun.
She's got a lot of competition.
She's got a lot of competition. She did get a very slight better with the Searcher Sanji that just came out, so you can kind of filter out things.
And maybe with the bands.
Yeah, the bands did help a little bit.
Which
we'll get into later. So the bans went into effect already?
No.
Or you're talking about in the future?
In the future.
Okay.
Yeah, so when the bands come, it will be helpful. Now, everybody at our locals is playing like bans have already happened.
I don't really see the merit, unless you really, really enjoy playing a deck and your deck got axed.
Yeah.
Then I get why you would still play it, but at the same time, like if you're a person who's trying to
I did talk to one of the guys who ran at a different locals in that week, and somebody did bring the banned cards as a final. This is my last
Okay.
chance
Which
I
I
get to
also
My
play
last
with it.
hurrah before.
Yeah,
I get
so
Okay, I get that.
Right. Thankfully, ours was.
I mean, that kind of happened
Not.
back in what was it? Was it 02 that new got?
Oh, the
right at the end of
white
the
games.
English only.
Right.
Yeah.
Right at the end of the
Yeah,
English
because
only
someone
fan
did
list.
that too, and I'm just like, why, man? I got trounced on. It was not even.
But anyways, you did Union Arena as well this week.
Yeah, me.
Yeah,
and
we-
Heartless did.
Yeah, we had 5, which is honestly double what we would normally have.
Yeah.
But I ended up winning with Yellow Sisters out of the One Punch.
And I got third.
You would?
I want to say I got third. Yeah.
I don't remember.
Yeah.
I was running and I don't
Yeah,
remember.
yeah. I got third with Yellow.
Megami,
Jane-
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so not much to say right now. There's still a lot of it tested. and
Yeah, I'm
stuff,
hoping
and
that
that's
Union
not a big
Arena.
locals.
Yeah, I'm hoping Union Arena will get a little bit more established when it comes up because I do have high hopes for Union Arena. It's just for me personally, right now, it's not where I want it to be. So maybe in the future, once we have multiple sets released for the same IPs, then it's something I would be
Yeah,
interested in
I
getting into.
I think a lot of people are just waiting for those certain
Yeah.
sets, their favorite animes and whatnot.
Mhm.
So I mean,
Yeah, and that could also be a huge, motivation for people to play. For me, I didn't play any games this week. I've been working on building a lot of Digimon stuff for the future. We got regulation battles coming up, which we'll talk about later. So I built a bunch of decks for regulation battles. Hopefully, we'll get to play that in April. But yeah, I'm just building decks.
How many did you build?
I built 5 regulation decks. We're gonna
In
test
one
all
day,
of them.
2 days.
Yeah, a day and a half.
Yeah,
Yeah,
okay,
Yeah, that sounds right.
so far. And I updated probably about
Oh, no.
15
Okay.
or so
There it
decks.
is.
I mean, not all 56 decks I own needed updated with the
Big
new
number.
set.
Yeah.
So,
I'm
but-
like 5. I'm like 5 decks.
I just love building decks. I'm much happier building a deck and then watching someone play it than I am playing it myself. If it works the way that I built it, I'm happy. And if it doesn't, it gets destroyed and thrown in the trash.
Well, especially I don't follow the game like you do, not near as much. But if you can build a deck and then I can play the deck and it works the way you intended, then that's just even better.
And that's something I've done for every card game in the past. It's just
Yeah.
like I enjoy the deck building process almost more than I enjoy the actual gameplay. But I obviously still enjoy playing the game.
Right. I mean, that's what I do is I'll throw a podcast on or whatever and then start building
Yeah.
or whatever. Yeah, it's a nice time.
Yeah, and maybe I'll put that to work. But for now, I'm just building the decks. But obviously, the first thing we wanted to talk about, and our main thing we wanted to talk about, is Bandai Card Fest Tokyo, and all the news and announcements that they had there. We have tons of stuff to talk about. Obviously, the big ones being ban and restricted announcements for both Digimon and One Piece. We also got some extra One Piece news. I think we want to start off with the finals. How'd they go?
Well, we can actually roll it back a little bit. We did have Dallas before One Piece Day Dallas.
Right,
that
right,
was
right.
in the month. And we got information on, was that rotation? No, we got worldwide release on that one.
Right, and then
right.
just-
Worldwide release. They
Which
just
we
said
did.
2026, and then tournament there. Kind of what you expect before ban list. I think it was almost 50% Dofi.
Yeah.
A couple one-offs here and there.
Yeah.
But obviously, big thing out of One Piece Day. Worldwide release.
Yeah, that's something we've kind of been wanting from every card game should have it at some point, because I mean, especially with One Piece, as competitive as it is, and it's
how
getting and
popular
growing,
it is. And,
the being able to, because right now all we're doing is, Japan gets it 3 months ahead of us, we're going to copy every single thing they do. Like, we're going to start off with
Yeah.
their deck lists. They won with this list. Here we go. We're shoving that in. So
Yeah, and Digimon gets to do it first. We'll see how it goes, but it's also very exciting for One Piece because, I would say the only difference between Digimon and One Piece, though, is Digimon in Japan is a best of one format, whereas One Piece is always a best of one format, wherein at least for ours, we have best of 3 for Digimon, and you guys still have best of 1 for One Piece. So it's going to be a lot more interesting to see where decks go when we're not just copying the successful stuff from Japan.
Right. There's more originality, more creativity. People do the originality and creativity now, but like this is true. It starts from zero for everybody.
We definitely see a different meta over here in the West to begin with. Obviously, red is way more popular here than it is in the East. So
I think especially now it's going to be too.
Was that the sway for Digimon as well? Like, does East go for another color compared to West?
Yes, but I feel like that bias is there because they're a best of one. So stuff that does really well over here is control decks.
Yeah.
That doesn't do very well over in Japan because people do not like to rely on a control deck being able to win their one and only match.
Right.
Whereas if you lose your one and only match here, you still have 2 matches to understand what their gameplay is, and you can just take the next 2 games because you just understand what their gameplay is. Like, it's so easy to just jump into a game of best of one and just, blindside your opponent with something completely off the wall. But like in games 2 and 3 for the East, we know what's coming. We don't have sideboards like they do in like Magic, so it's not like you can change your deck at all. When you get to game 2, you know what's coming. Unless for some reason there's like a one-of random copy of a card that just happens to come out. But, so...
It's there for a reason.
Right.
Like...
Well, yeah. And that does happen. I love pet cards. Those are my favorite. Just throwing the one-of copy of a card and seeing if it works or not. But, yeah, it is just different. I think... So it's hard to say whether or not if people have a bias for certain colors over in the East for Digimon, or is it strictly because of they just play differently? I would imagine so. That's probably true. It's just easier to see with One Piece because you guys are still best of one versus Japan's still best of one, so it's really easy to make that comparison. When we see a lot more red, we see a lot more green, but they don't see as much over in Japan. So but yeah, for the finals though for Worlds, who ended up winning?
Lucci was the winner.
Which they did have to roll back to 09.
Yeah, this wasn't...
They weren't allowed to play anything that wasn't out for
everybody
else there.
Sense.
So they didn't have their green-purple Luffy. They didn't have their blue-purple Luffy, which we'll have way down the line, but they are 2 scary decks. But they weren't allowed those. No ban lists, but so...
They get the benefit of playing longer for these formats, but they get the
drawback of having to go back to the format
having
during
to relearn
Worlds.
Older formats and having to not rely on newer cards.
Now, if only that mattered, because nobody in NA topped. It was not the North America show, but Lucci won it. Shanks was second. Lucci was third, and Anel was fourth. So Lucci's up there, and we'll talk about the bans in a second, but there's a good reason. I mean, it's a really good deck. It's really consistent.
Say if you saw
for the most part. But if you see these certain cards that, are coming up, then I mean
removal is strong when you have to swing with things on the board and you don't have anything anymore.
If anyone watched the Lucci Anel match, it was just insane.
Yeah, it was a heck of a game, which third place Lucci was from Europe, I believe, so somewhat
at least someone from the East.
Somewhat.
Or the West, sorry.
Yeah,
someone from the
someone
West.
from the West at least got there, but no NA. So, but
well, we can talk about bans.
I think that's where we got to get to, because obviously Lucci Anel, well,
goodbye.
Not as good anymore. So
I guess we'll start off with the black cards.
Yeah, I mean, for anyone who doesn't know, Gecko Moria and Ice Age were banned. That were both black. Gecko has been called to be banned since it came out.
It's been a long time coming. I mean, same for Ice Age. Ice Age has been called for being restricted and or banned since OP2.
Right. I guess if people don't know what these cards do, Gecko is a on play. You can play a 4-cost and a 2-cost, one active, one rested from trash.
Yep.
And then Ice Age is a on play -5 cost to one of your opponent's characters, and then the trigger is was it KO a 3?
KO at
KO
3, I
right.
believe. So, a lot of value. Both cards.
Yeah, and as a more casual One Piece player, it's so hard for me to look at Gecko and just be like, oh, this card is absolutely busted. It probably needs to go. But then, you know, a lot of people are like, how can you build a black deck and not include Gecko?
Yeah.
But at the same time, I think that's a big trap for a lot of people, is to throw Gecko into any black deck, because I genuinely don't think it was that good to be warranted a ban. It is sad to see that they're not going to go the route of Digimon and do these ban pairs, these restricted cards instead of banning cards outright. You know, you put one Gecko in a deck,
Restricted
Right.
to archetypes
You know,
or something like
or
that.
If
band
you're doing
pair.
a band pair, you're doing Gecko and Rebecca.
Gecko, Rebecca.
Exactly.
would be
And
And
I
that would-
genuinely
yeah.
don't think that Gecko is that good without.
an extra recursion.
Yeah, when
Yeah.
you're getting 5 cards onto the field
Yep.
for 8 costs, right?
Yep.
If you're getting 5 cards on the field for 8 costs, that is rough.
Yeah.
But if you're only getting the 3, like I played Perona back in the day, and it didn't do enough.
Right.
It legitimately didn't do enough. Obviously, we have more support now, so some cards just get absolutely busted as we go on. But it's a rough call. And I do respect that they are willing to do that, because it does hurt people's trust in Bandai. They have never hit a super rare before, and I know a lot of people are like, they're never going to hit a super rare. They wouldn't do that for One Piece.
And
like,
they hit 2 this time.
They hit
which we'll
2.
get to the other one.
We'll get to blue in a second.
yeah, and I think people were a little bit naive to believe that they wouldn't hit a super rare if it was a problem, because ultimately, if the card game doesn't survive because they refuse to make bans and changes and stuff like that, I think banning a super rare is a little bit more beneficial than not banning a super
Yeah,
rare.
I agree.
The biggest thing is, and it was kind of funny because we were kind of coming up to this, the Geckos were slowly not being taken out, but like reduced. You weren't playing 4 from you. Some people were experimenting with 3 and then running a list from there. But the biggest loser was Black Yellow Luffy, which kept winning and topping. Like, that just became such a problem, and Gecko really made it a problem because you could activate his ability and swarm and just elongate the game way more than it needed to be. So
Did we see Black Yellow Luffy at all in tops
and he was
For
there.
what?
for this event?
Yeah, I think he was.
For this
there
event,
was-
I think there was a couple
Okay.
in top 16.
Yeah.
So he was still there. Okay.
he was there for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and now people are really trying to make him work again because he is strong, but like not being able to do what he does,
Yeah.
without over explaining it or anything like that. But
To be
he
fair-
was very strong with the Gecko pairing, and the Ice Age pairing, and another card in the ban list as well. So he is the biggest loser out of these bans.
It was definitely a more NA favored deck.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
He had almost completely already disappeared from the East.
Yeah, because we saw Cross play it, I think, right back
Yep.
in the last card fest that we went to,
And that's
and
how
he
won.
dominated a lot of those games with that.
He won Orlando with it.
Right,
so-
exactly. So we'll have to see where that deck goes from here.
It won't.
yeah,
we haven't talked about card 4 yet. But,
So let's move on to the next card, Jinbei. But
Yeah, Blue Jinbei. My personal take, kind of what you already said. I think it should have just been a restricted pair. Can't put Jinbei and starter deck law in the same deck.
yeah,
I think completely banning the card is probably overkill.
it makes me sad for decks that were fringe or lower tier than stuff like Dofi. Like Bo is a good deck, but I don't think it was as good as Dofi is. But
Boa feels
lose-
completely unimpacted by losing that card.
Really?
Yeah.
Boa completely feels unimpacted losing that card.
Huh.
It just freed you up to play either an extra bouncer if you wanted to play these. I think it's the starter deck Dofi.
Yeah.
Uncommon. Or I know what a few of us, because I've been testing the deck too, we've just added the 4-cost Boa blocker from the starter deck, giving us another reorder of the top, a
Mm.
6K body blocker. Works perfectly
So,
fine.
It kind of feels what I said about Gecko, where sometimes it's just a trap. Like, you think that you're getting extra value, but it's genuinely you're kind of hurting yourself.
Jinbei, you're definitely getting the extra value. In Boa, yes. But Boa you can easily build around. Like, you don't have to have Jinbei. There's other cards. It was just Dofi that made it be that way. And way too much value.
You know, you can throw all these what ifs around, but in the end of the day, yeah, it just was too efficient, I think, and you got let go.
Yeah. I mean, there's if you know, there's not much to it. If you don't know, on play for Jinbei, you can play out another 7 Warlords of the Sea from your hand with 4 cost or less, and you would just play that, and you could flood board way too easily, and a lot of free value for that card, and it was just too overwhelming for a lot of players with how his leader ability worked.
Yeah.
If it was a different leader ability, it wouldn't matter. But his leader ability does matter, unfortunately, and I think that led to it.
And it matters too because you had starter deck Law, who everybody thought was going to get hit.
Yep.
You can play the Jinbei into the Law.
Yep.
Bounce the Jinbei, play the Jinbei. Now you have gotten a third body for 8.
Yep.
And remove something from their board at the same time.
Yep.
Very true.
It's
which was just that's too much.
It's a problem. So again, that was the reason, was Dofi, that leader, and it got hit.
Yeah.
Was there any doubt, or I guess any expectation that they might just hit the Dofi leader?
There's expectation's a strong word, but it very well could have happened.
Yeah,
I mean, they've already hit 2 of the other leaders that overpowered the other meta. But I think with now we're at 10, and then set 11, and then EB2, all that coming out after that, and him still being able to be up there consistently with Jinbei kind of gave them like just a Jinbei, not a Dofi.
I think one of the reasons they didn't is just because of the set rotation.
Yeah.
Because he's about to get rotated out.
Yeah, we'll talk about rotation, but that could definitely be one of the reasons behind it too. But let's go to the last card. Why?
You talk to this one.
Yeah,
I do play
as
a lot
resident Anel player.
Yeah, I do play a lot of Anel. It's definitely the deck I've kept around the longest. Raigo getting hit. Why?
Man.
My
Nell, yes, he is pretty prevalent. He always sneaks one top here and there. He hasn't really won anything, especially East side, that much. But we no longer have any way to deal with anything 5 cost or higher. We already lost. What was the first card? I can't think of it. Yeah, Reject. I could not think of it.
Yeah, that card got
we already
wiped out.
lost Reject, which could remove a 5 cost. Like, people forget
That one feels
that
a
card
little
was
more-
a removal.
That card was a little bit more deserved, I think, than Raigo.
I'm not saying it's not, but
Yeah.
that was a removal at 5 cost. Now we've lost our get rid of anything, so we don't really have anything except give my opponent to 8 life and Yamato something at 8.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think there was a match of Anel that the Anel player didn't even start playing the game until his opponent was at 8 life.
At Worlds, that Lucci and L match was.
Yeah, that is the match I was talking about. If you have not seen it, it's a crazy match.
Anel doesn't even get to start playing it now until they're at 8 life.
Anel doesn't play the game until 10 dawn. Everything before then is just hope that you're not dead.
Yeah, it was a weird hit in my opinion. I mean, at the same time, like as you said, we see it every once in a while, but it's not like you see consistent tops from Yellow or Anel in general. Because like, was this just an Anel hit, or is this a hit for any other deck?
It's a BY hit.
BY Luffy.
Okay.
They're the only 2 real yellow decks that like to stay at 1, which Raigo 6 cost, remove any KO one of your opponent's characters, remove your life down to 1.
Mm-hmm.
If you're already at 1,
Doesn't.
you're already at
Yeah.
1. You're not losing anything. You're just paying 6 to get rid of a body.
Mm.
But it's 1 body. Only
So
2
on the-
decks have that utilization to want to be at 1.
Right.
I
On its
even
face,
think,
card's pretty terrible. Like,
What's the trigger?
KO a character that has cost equal to you and your opponent's life combined.
Okay. So if it comes in early, it's a problem. For sure.
so yeah, on its face, card seems pretty bad overall, but those are the 2 decks that easily could have used that
Yeah.
effect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It seems like a pretty standard whatever here.
Yeah.
Because you have, at the same time, yes, this gets rid of anything, but you have Red Rock, which is a blue card, which bottom decks anything.
Yeah.
So it's just...
And its triggers bottom deck of 4.
Yeah, it's a 3. Yeah. No, it's a 4, and then Gravity Blade is 5. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
So,
So
is there anything that's been released for the East that like Raigo might have been abused in, or is this just those 2 decks?
no, because we would have this Yellow Kid would have just come out.
Right.
I don't think he wants to stay at 1 life when he has to flip his life.
Yeah, no. I don't-
Green Yellow Law came out. He re-adds to his life with a Supernova.
As a
So you-
placeholder.
So you wouldn't want to put something there to just trash it with the Raigo. And then EB doesn't have a yellow. And then yellow into 11 is Shirahoshi, which if you're at 1 life on Shirahoshi, you're probably in trouble. And blue, yellow, Nami, I don't really think we'll want to be at 1 life either.
Yeah.
Only
So-
really Anel and BY Luffy want to be at 1.
Yep.
So this is either just hitting those 2 decks, which again, both those decks do hit tops, with Black Yellow Luffy being consistent and NL being fairly common. I wouldn't say uncommon, but fairly common overall. But it does make me think that maybe they've got plans for the future that it just would make more problems. There could easily be more leaders in the future that if they're at 1 life, they have some sort of special effect to them.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So-
and my only thought with that, though, and it's something I've brought up a little bit, but these 4 cards are prevalent to the West.
Mhm.
Obviously, these are all cards before EB. These are all cards before 11. And these were all cards that we, as the West, mainly used.
Right. Yep.
Dofi still does good in the East, not the top deck in the East.
They're more spread out in the East. Like
They like playing the new
yeah.
things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
We
true.
like playing what's good.
Yep.
Yeah.
Mentality.
What we
Yeah.
think's good, I guess.
Right.
That's the same.
So-
It's the same way in Digimon too.
So
But yeah, I think
it's hard to say, but it
yeah.
doesn't seem likely. It just seems like something they could even take away in the next one. Like they could revert it in the next ban list.
That's true. I mean, we didn't see any unbans this time
Right.
around, but that doesn't mean that we don't get unbans.
They
All
did.
those Sakazuki
Yeah.
players molding over not
I'm
getting
gonna
their
say, like,
character
didn't
back.
the price of that go up?
It shot up.
Did
and
they
then it
genuinely
shot
think
back.
that they were gonna?
Yes.
Yes, there was
That's
a lot of people who
crazy.
thought
If
that card was
they-
coming back.
In my opinion, if they give you a promo leader for a replacement for that leader, it's
It's-
not getting.
it's
It's
not
not
coming.
coming back.
Did RP Law get a replacement leader too?
Yes.
Yeah.
He's
Yeah,
god awful.
He's
Oh,
really
yeah.
bad.
Oh, I
do you mean he's bad?
I can only imagine with the way they did Sakazuki. I can only
Yeah.
imagine RP Law's new one is also
RP
bad.
Law got hit worse than Sakazuki.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Plus now, have fun because rotation Sakazuki's gone anyway next
That's
year.
true.
So,
So we can move into that now.
Well, one
yeah.
thing I did want to say about Gecko is, in particular, they did put out a statement really just on Gecko and kind of their philosophy behind it of this card was too broken. It was too crazy, and it made it really hard for them to try and design anything else around it.
That seems to be their reasoning for a lot of things.
Yeah.
so
We'll
the
talk about it.
exact reason of RP Law.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
Too hard
yeah.
to make a 4-cost red or purple
Better.
that Law could just instantly play. on.
right.
Yep.
And I think that's the same argument with what I was talking about with Raigo. Is like if they print another leader that wants to be at 1 life, Raigo's going to be a problem then too.
Yeah.
So it is hard. And we'll talk about it with Digimon too. Digimon was the same way.
Yeah.
Most of their reasoning behind the reason why they banned the restricted cards in Digimon was because it just made it so that either decks in the future had to respect those cards, and we either got really bad cards or cards that just absolutely completely get destroyed by.
Yeah, I think all these bans are fine.
Yep.
I mean, it's again with power creep, with some of the new leads are coming out. Like, who's to say like some crazy black leader is going to come out? Could happen. I don't know. But like, if Gecko was still in, people are probably going to play it in it.
Yeah.
People are probably going to play IA stage if it requires it. Like, so I mean, I don't know. It's.
I'm a little torn overall, I think, because is there genuinely a problem with evergreen cards overall? As long as they're not broken, I do think Gecko was pushed, and I'm okay with going away. I think Ice Age was pushed. So it's like some of these cards I think were very pushed, but I don't necessarily agree with hitting a card because it's commonly used. Because at the same time, it's just because a card is like very important in a lot of decks. It does, obviously. These companies don't want to talk about the secondary market.
Right.
They want to avoid it, but it does make it harder for players to play cards that everyone wants to see copies of. So I get that point, but at the same time, it's like it's rough. But Bandai's doing what they think is right, and I think overall I respect their decisions here. Could they have hit more things? Maybe. None of the red decks saw any hits, but I don't think they genuinely have anything.
No, nothing's really
Red
as big of a problem.
Red
yet.
is not a problem.
Right.
It could be a problem.
Red and green weren't really that big of a deal. Purple is a big deal, but as I said, they're not targeting anything of EB or 11. We know EB and 11 have a purple straw hat issue.
Yeah.
But it's obviously not the time.
I think
to target
Jinbei
things
was
not
the
out.
newest card they hit here.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, yeah.
And it's not even that new anymore. It's like, what was that, 7?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's 3 sets ago at this point.
Mm-hmm.
So they definitely do not like to hit new cards. We'll say that.
Yeah. It won't.
Again, anything that's currently in print, I highly doubt they'll ever hit.
I think
unless it's an actual
I'm
problem.
gonna say that.
the fastest thing that was banned was Reject.
Yeah.
I think, like, as far as
one
like, the
set,
newest
1 or 2
printed-
sets later, I think
Yeah,
they hit
it
that.
One set.
One set, yeah. So I think Reject. I genuinely think Reject was a problem.
It was a
so yeah,
problem.
unless they see genuine issues with cards, then obviously they're not gonna hit new stuff.
Right.
But let's move on to the rotation.
Yep. So we mentioned it a couple times, but One Piece, first Bandai game to get rotation, starting April 2026. Any card marked with a 1 in the bottom right corner will be rotated out of the availability to play at standard tournaments. There is
And that's OP1 to OP04.
OP1 to OP4 starter decks 1 through 9. There will be legacy tournaments. I don't remember what they're calling it. Extended tournaments, I think is what they're calling it, where everything will be legal, but mainline will be 2, 3, and at that point 4, more than likely.
Yep.
So overall impressions. You guys think rotation's good? Or you think it's not good?
I think it's fine. I mean, it gives people more of a broad idea of how, okay, the deck's always been built like this. How can I change it to this new meta, So I think it's fine.
So we got this, a couple at this point. We've known about rotation for a minute, and I will say my opinion has slightly shifted since originally it was announced. Originally, I thought this was stupid. I thought, what is even the point? That they're only rotating a good handful of cards that matter. If those cards were a problem, I feel like they should just ban them. Like, if they're specifically rotating cards because of cards like Dofi is going to rotate, why not just ban Dofi?
Right.
So I had my opinion there initially, and I think my opinion has changed after talking with people here and there. That it's fine. I'm still not convinced it's the right time.
Yep.
But I do have a better understanding of why they've done it.
Yeah, that's kind of my initial reaction was pretty negative, coming from, I don't know, just playing the game since set one. Like, it just being with it, and From also a collector standpoint as well, like just it'd be
Yeah,
nice
rip
for
all those people who have full alternative decks that they're just playing
Yeah.
with all these, OPO 1 through 4 cards.
Well,
right.
mangas are evergreen. The cards they're tied to are evergreen.
Mm.
So, Searcher Nami,
Ace,
Ace,
Chopper.
Jinx.
not Chopper.
So,
Chopper.
No, Chopper.
Chopper.
Chopper's an EV. He's
EV.
fine.
Yeah,
Eevee's
yeah.
a 2.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, but still, it's just all mangas.
Yeah, all mangas.
Yeah, I'm just
Yeah.
trying to think of the first.
And
Right.
anything tied to them, like if they're
Sabo.
same print.
Sabo,
So
yeah. Blocker
so
Sabo.
I think that is just another, for me, another argument against rotation. If a card is going to be moved from, 1 to 2 to make it legal in the current format, again, why bother with rotation at the same time? It's if the whole point is to start rotating out these cards that have seen a lot of play. Searcher Nami has seen so much play, and I know people are they are well aware that people will be upset if Searcher Nami gets
Yeah.
cut, and that's why she's got reprinted into set 2 now. She's not seeing the cut.
Well, one of those things being what you said earlier, and that's the secondary market.
Mhm.
1 through 4 are getting really hard to find cards for.
Yeah.
Some of those rares are hitting $5, $6. Uncommons are hitting $3.
Is that an argument for rotation or an argument for more reprints?
I think like another PRB set, and I don't know if you target those cards specifically because they're just they're that for now, and then the next set or two comes out and they're not relevant, so they go back down. It's really hard. to tell.
It's rough because even if you look like, okay, these are the top 20 cards from OP1. These are the top 20 cards from OP2, top 20 cards from OP3, top 20 cards from OP4, and 9 starter decks. You're looking at a full, probably 120 card reprint set.
Yeah.
And that's just not.
I would say what was
It's not viable
what
financially
was
for
PRB,
them.
like 300 or something cards.
That sounds roughly right. Kind of sounds like a lot. I don't know.
Well,
I'd
they
look into
also.
it.
Yes and no. There was only 104 types or something. You got to remember, there's types of cards, and then
Yeah,
every card,
like
every
the
card
pirate
in that,
flag.
Yeah, true. Yeah, it
yeah,
has,
every
like,
card in that set had 3 to 4 different versions.
Yeah.
I would say like the full art, all art.
Normal print, Jolly Roger print, full
Then all
art.
the
Some
Dawn.
had full prints. All the Dawn had 3 versions.
Yeah.
Right.
Some of the events had regular, etched, full art Jolly Roger.
Yeah,
So
just a lot of filler.
Yeah, I mean it probably only had like
I don't know
a
the
third
exact.
of what.
Yeah, I don't know the exact number, but you're probably only looking at 100 cards reprinted,
Right.
and that was only very select cards anyway.
So let's
like
not
1 through
think of it.
6.
Let's not think of it more of like EB sets. Let's just think of it as strict reprint sets in general. Now, maybe not even reprint sets. Maybe they just start slotting in reprint cards into sets. Here and there. Obviously, this isn't what they're doing, so there's not a whole lot of merit in talking about it, in my opinion. But to me, it's just a big argument for why I just don't think rotation was all that necessary. Now, I did get a pretty good viewpoint from one of our other friends who was talking about decks just becoming, they just get a wider and wider range of cards to use.
Yeah.
And we've seen it now. Like back in the day, you'd play, and hopefully you got somewhere between like 12 2Ks in your deck, right?
Yeah,
that was a
yeah.
good number in the day. Now your average deck is sitting around 20 about 20 2Ks in your deck, and those are all cards that they can effectively use beyond just being a 2K. Sometimes back in OPO4, you'd throw a 2K in your deck only using it as a 2K,
yeah.
right?
They all have uses.
And to build on that too, with 11, they got vanilla 2Ks. So this is a 5-cost 7K body with a 2K counter.
Wow.
So they are playable 2Ks that you can just slot in decks.
Yeah, they went from those vanillas releasing went from having no counter to having 1K counter. Now they're having 2K counter. So they are trying to buff and build those up just to
So
put them in.
I think ultimately, we could talk about rotation for a minute here and not get anywhere, in my opinion. So I think ultimately, I think rotation's good if they're not going to reprint cards.
Yeah.
Please don't reprint cards. I know it sounds terrible. I know it sucks when your favorite cards are not going to be illegal, but it opens up room for those cards to have life somewhere else, like we said, in the extended format. Totally fine. But it also gives the chance for a new version of the card. How many times have we seen Luffy being reprinted, right?
Yeah.
Just because Luffy in OPO 1 is now gone, doesn't mean that we're not going to see another Luffy that is very similar but like slightly different, right?
And we technically already did.
Yeah.
The original Rush Luffy, 5/7 Rush, gets past blocker with 2.
And it's a 5/6.
5/6 Rush,
Yeah.
2 Dawn, unblockable.
Yep.
Start deck 21, we got 5/6 Rush Luffy, 2 Dawn. I can't remember.
No. It's not 2 Dawn. It's when attacking, give a rest of
Give a
Dawn.
rest at Dawn.
Yeah.
So
ultimately, I think it would be a mistake to have rotation and then constantly reprint cards.
Yeah.
So I think overall, if I don't respect rotation, if we just start getting the same cards back into the pool, but I definitely will respect rotation if they genuinely mean that they want the meta to shift in a meaningful way.
I mean, it's that, and just another quick point, like, at one of our locals, we have so many new players. And it's almost impossible for them to find cards of any kind. So, like, I opened some PRB out of, from, like, a Target run or something, and, I wanted the hits out of it, and then any other cards, I just stuck it on a table for all of them to go through, and they were freaking out. They were so happy about everything they pulled. So it's really healthy for a new player base because, again, part of the problem, the secondary market is so high on a lot of those other cards. So just giving new players the chance and then, hoping that the new leaders are just as fun as the old leaders. Or my thought on it is don't ban leaders, but that's just me. Don't rotate out leaders just so you can have a little fun with it.
I would agree with that. I think if they just rotated out all the cards but left the leaders, because that's honestly my biggest disappointment.
Yeah.
Is I'm a jank player.
Yeah,
I love my
exactly.
jank decks, and I want to play something fun every once in a while. I don't play meta stuff very often. Yeah. Oh man, I'm so happy that Bello is Bellovetti is like coming back, because that was the deck that I liked playing back, and it was terrible.
Yeah.
The deck was bad, but I like playing it. That was the first deck that I genuinely played. That I'm like, I have a good time playing this. And you're just gonna lose that. I know it's not rotating yet, and obviously the deck is going to be killed with the new sword deck coming out. But I really like Black Red Sabo.
Yeah.
It's not rotating yet, but it will rotate eventually if they continue this trend. And that deck's not going to be viable anymore. Again, who is the sword?
Kobe.
Kobe.
Yeah.
Kobe just invalidates that deck, so that's a bad example in my opinion. But it is an example that I have. It's like if I ever wanted to go back and play these decks for OP 1 through 4. I remember back the original Law deck, the green. Red. Is it green red?
Yeah.
There's not many decks I don't think there's any decks that are close to similar to how that deck plays.
No.
I mean, I guess the new Law. But
New Law kinda, but it doesn't have the same feel.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
And so you just lose that. So it will be sad, but again, they'll have the extended formats. I hope that they will give at least a little bit of life to, but we can only see, wait and see. And I'm going to trust Bandai with this too. As disappointed as I was overall, I think overall it's going to be something good for the future.
Right.
Nice to not have Digimon as a testing ground for once.
Yeah, so it is wild to see that rotation is going to happen in One Piece before it happens in Digimon with having several years of advanced experience with Digimon and
21 sets of Digimon versus 10 sets of One Piece.
Well, 21 sets of base Digimon plus 10 sets of side Digimon sets plus anyways. It's crazy to see that we're not getting a Digimon testing ground this time. But
speaking of Digimon, we had Digimon at Bandai Card Fest Tokyo as well.
Yeah, it was. I'll say it was interesting to see what came through and what didn't. We saw the Sakuyamon deck come through. that no one, everyone saw the Sakuyamon hit the table, and they're like, "Oh man, this is that Talmon loop deck. We gotta watch this loop deck absolutely annihilate everyone." And then they started playing Sakuya X's, and you're just like, "Oh, it's not."
It's Sakuya options.
Yeah. It's not the loop deck. That's crazy. Of course, it didn't win. Unfortunately, what won, and I say this lovingly because I know a lot of people love this deck, but we got a different loop deck that won. We got Galaxy Loop ended up winning this tournament, and you know,
Explain the premise of that deck.
the whole point of it is you get to play a lot of cards effectively gaining back the turn several times. You know, so it's just hyper efficiently, you know, playing cards and then like retaining your turn again back with more memory. And the deck is very good at doing several things in a turn and then passing it back to you and telling you can't do that. And then it moves back to your turn, and you just keep looping this over and over again with the Tamer Ko and Sayo. You just keep just overly value engineering your opponent until you eventually just take the game. And it's funny because like you'll see a lot of the cards that people think are very powerful for the deck. You know, with Digimon we don't do too many bans. We'll talk about the bans in a minute, but they do restrictions. And what do you restrict out of that deck besides the actual engine itself? Because we can talk about it here in a minute, but we saw, you know, one of the restrictions come out, and they hit one of the cards that the deck plays. It was only playing on one of in the first place, so restricting it doesn't do anything. Right. But I will say one of the funniest things to come out of the Galaxy Loop deck was Invisimon. No one had that card on their radar at all. I was just watching it live, and I really wanted to buy one of the Alt-Art Invisimons when they were like $6, and I'm just like, you know, I'll wait. You know, I don't need it. No one's gonna play this card. And all of a sudden, you see the quarterfinals here, and they drop an Invisimon on the table. That card spiked all the way up to $46.
What was it before?
It was like $6.
I love it.
Yeah, and people just went nuts.
Yeah.
And then finally we got the deck list out, and they were playing 2 copies of the Invisimon in their deck, and it did work.
Which they saw game 2.
Yeah.
They hit both.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And that's the thing about the loop deck is they see a lot of their deck. You know, they get to see all their pieces pretty consistently. It's just a hyper consistent deck. Anyways, so Galaxy Loop ended up winning. We did see Red Purple Imperial Digimon do pretty good. It got bodied.
It topped, but it
got bodied.
It didn't play its final match.
Yeah.
I think that was like the one match I watched.
Yeah.
And it just like I was like, what?
It didn't play much Digimon, that's for sure. And a lot of people had really high hopes for that deck to do very well. To be honest, it did do very well.
It got fourth. I
genuinely think Galaxy Loop is one of those decks that is terrible unless you're a good player.
Yeah.
Good players know how to play Galaxy Loop.
Right.
They've done some wild things with that deck, and honestly, we would talk way too long about the intricacies of the deck. We'll just table that for now. We also saw the other Imperial Digimon deck, green-blue Imperial Digimon, original Imperial Digimon, ended up taking second.
Yeah.
Also got bodied in its game 2.
It did. It did. I'm surprised because I definitely think that's a good deck, but I saw it lose to Galactimon back at Orlando,
yeah.
and that was a great match. Obviously, no Galactimon in the top 4 here, but yeah. So it was a very interesting top 4. I much appreciated not seeing Security Control in the top 4 here. That was awful last Worlds. Hated that, so I definitely appreciated not seeing that again. But yeah, and then after the Worlds, we got our ban and restrict announcement from Digimon, and boy, did we get a lot. One thing we didn't see in the top 4 was Purple Hybrid. Now, that deck's also really good. Mm-hmm. It's another loop style deck. Where it loops over and over again, you know, your hybrids and your tamers. And one of the cards in there is the BT2 mat. Now, people were saying, why did you ban this card? Why didn't you just restrict it? The deck only played one copy of it anyways.
Yeah.
It only needed to play one copy.
Right.
It efficiently put that mat into its trash, and it got it right back out. It didn't matter. And there's no efficient way of dealing with that. You could bottom deck it, but by the time you have the ability to bottom deck it, it's probably back in the trash. And they're probably going to loop it again later. So it had to be banned. It is what it is. It's not ideal for other decks. I'm going to be real sad about literally every other purple deck that wanted to play it.
Yeah.
Not even being able to play one copy of that card anymore. So that is pretty sad. Unfortunately, Purple Hybrid paid the price. Well, Matt paid the price for Purple Hybrid sins.
Right. Some of the decks that I used to play, I used to have a few of them in it. So
it is a really good card. I think it has another argument to it too. It definitely makes future cards way more breakable with it being in the format.
Yeah.
So, it's hard to build around with new cards. So
Just for a base, what did it do?
So Matt, when on play, it would return a purple Digimon or option card. So you could get back your hybrid loops. So you would grab back the level 4 Velgramons and do that loop with that, or you get back Jack Raid, which is another card that we will talk about in the restricted list. Jack Raid, just outvalue engines everything because the deck has 30-40 cards in the trash by the time you're doing the loop.
Yep.
So the card is literally gain forward memory for 0.
Yep.
So no cost whatsoever, and you can play 4 of them. Matt just lets you make sure you efficiently kept doing your loop. You get rid of your Matt, you'd bring it back, you'd play another Jack Raid, and you just keep doing it that way. So, and then we'll just go into restricted cards here. Jack Raid, got hit down to 1. A lot of people say they want cards banned. There's a lot of people who are not on the restricted bandwagon, which, I get. How many times have, I've gone into a game and my opponent played Hidden Potential Discovered, their one-up copy of this thing and completely stole the game. Yeah, it's rough. So I get the argument for not having these one-up copies of cards in the deck, but at the same time, I just don't think they want to see these cards completely gone. Some cards I think are fine being restricted. A lot of the Digimon themselves are fine being restricted, but I could see why they would ban some of these cards. But as far as other restricteds go, we've got the other memory gain card, Blinding Ray. We saw that being used with Magnamon X because, its effect, Magnamon X would gain its immunity if a security card was removed for any reason. So you would remove your own security card with Blinding Ray, gain the 2 memory from Blinding Ray, and then get your immunity immediately. So you don't have to worry about actually hitting your opponent to get your immunity. And then it would keep that immunity all the way up until your next turn. So it was just very efficiently keeping that. I don't think that was too strong for Magnamon, but I could also see they think that it could be a problem for the future, and honestly, just get rid of it. So now it's got 1 copy. It's fine. Other than that, we saw both hybrid cards get hit down to both the promos, so the Agunimon and the Lobomon. The Lobomon didn't deserve it, but
Crossfire.
if Agunimon's gonna get hit, then might as well hit the Lobomon too. Right. Future potential of cards being printed. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you just see the Agunimon hit the table. You're taking 3 hits.
Yep.
You're taking 3 security immediately unless you have an answer for it. So it was very strong. The decks will be sad to be missed. I think the only deck that was genuinely playing it was the Angry Birds deck is what they call it. It's the Phoenixmon deck was playing a red hybrid package. Legitimate red hybrid doesn't really exist right now. So, and now it's not going to exist at all. I genuinely think that deck is dead.
Yeah.
Well, we do have some new red hybrid cards. 22.
We're getting some in 21.
We're getting new Because the hero affinity has an Emperor Greymon?
Yeah, so BT21.
21? Okay.
So in 21, we're getting some new hero stuff. I don't know if it's going to be enough to bring the deck out of the grave at this point. But, I mean, we've seen a lot of things happen, so we'll see about that. Again, Lobamon didn't deserve it, but...
Lobamon not getting the same hero support.
Yeah. So we'll see. Now, for Galaxy Loop, the dog was put down.
Mirage Galgamon reduced to 1.
Yeah. So the problem with Mirage Galgamon was it hurt you. It hurt your opponent for just playing the game.
Yeah.
And it didn't have an archetype. So anytime you would draw a card without like drawing the card for your turn, like you would draw from an effect, you would trigger Mirage's effect. I believe it bottom deck something. I can't remember exactly because I didn't play Mirage.
Right.
So like even for like Digivolving?
By an effect. So Digivolving isn't really an effect. But like if you had a card that like that just said straight up just draw a card, like
Okay.
that box that just says draw a card. Anytime that happened, basically you would trigger the effect. And Mirage Galgamon did it himself too. It didn't need the rest of the Galgamon line. It functioned on its own. You know, you saw that being played in some Imperial decks, which I think they've mostly dropped it now for Hexablaumon. But you saw it back then. And real Mirage decks just didn't really abuse it. But you had cards like, or decks like Galaxy Loop absolutely abusing it. And I don't know. I genuinely don't know if it matters anymore because they were only playing it as a one-of copy anyway. So I think the only deck that lost out was a fringe deck like Mirage Galgamon with the Mirage Galgamon Burst Mode deck. Really, getting hit for, again, we've seen a lot of these decks, that got restricted. Definitely the main decks aren't really feeling it too hard.
Well, one main deck might be feeling it. And
the other dog.
the other dog.
Yeah, so Fenrir-Lugamon was... honestly, I'm surprised. I thought Balmon was going to get hit. I
think that was the general consensus. The Balmon getting that easy memory.
Yeah,
But
I genuinely thought the Balmon egg not letting you digivolve more than once a turn was the problem. And then I had someone explain it to me, and I thought about it more. Balmon let you get back up to a level 6 in one turn. So you immediately got from a level 3 to level 6 efficiently, and even a level 7. But you know what Fenrir-Lugamon did?
keep your turn.
The Fenrir-Lugamon let you get 2 level 7s in the turn. So, what's worse? Just getting all the way up to a level 7 or getting 2 level 7s in a turn?
For the price, yeah.
So,
man.
when I thought about it, I'm like, yeah, that was definitely the problem. So, I'm not surprised to see that one go. New Fenrir is not as good. It's not even close. But we'll see where the deck goes. I know there's some diehard Fenrir-Lugamon fans. So,
they'll make it work.
I think we'll see it still. And Fenrir-Lugamon's a new Digimon, so we'll see more support for him in the future. So I don't think he's going to be down for long. But that one itself is definitely oppressive. So it's good to see that one go, and unless you're a Fenrir-Lugamon fan, then it's sad to see it go. But
my boy Stingmon catching a stray.
Stingmon,
Not the card I expected to be hit out of
Yeah.
that deck.
I would have lost any bets
Yeah.
on that deck. I thought Davis and Ken was going to get hit. I genuinely think the Davis and Ken is probably the most efficient card. I can see why they would hit this card. It doesn't have the once per turn draw card effect on it. It just draws multiple cards, and that can get out of hand. I did like
A lot of purples lost their life to that effect. Not being once a turn. So
Yeah, purple also had that effect way back in the day.
How bad do you think this affects the deck now?
not at all.
I don't think it changes anything. I
Not
genuinely
much.
don't. They're going to run the one-up copy of this. But a lot of decks would only, just run because it does have another effect where you get to play it for cheap if you have a blue card already in play. So it was nice to be able to play a cheap 4-drop so that you could DNA into your Paleodramon super efficiently. Then you got 2 attacks off, you draw 2 cards, usually it has jamming because the XV-Mon would give it jamming. So you got 2 8K swings, 7K swings? I think that one's 7K. You got 2 7K swings with jamming, so you didn't have to worry about too much unless, you hit something out of the security. But, you just got to refill your hand super efficiently, and I get why they hit it. I genuinely do, but it definitely was out of left field.
Right.
That deck has a lot of scary things in it.
It does.
New Pyojimon from BT60. New. It's not even new anymore. I think it's a quarter of the game's lifespan at this point. It feels like it was only yesterday that card was printed.
Paladin Ace, the 2-cost event.
Yeah.
New
Progenitor. That card is pretty good too.
Right.
So that was on my short list of cards. I think they could have hit as well. But it's interesting to see. And then the last card that got hit by the restriction was Kazuhamon. And funnily enough, we did not see this in Worlds. Everyone that we saw on the big stage opted to not bring the loop deck because Kazuhamon was part of the Sakuyamon loop deck, or the Taomon loop deck, sorry. We didn't see the Taomon loop deck. So now everyone's like, well, why'd you bother banning or restricting this card?
Yeah.
We didn't even see it. Well, we didn't see it doesn't mean that it's not an oppressive deck,
Yep. Exactly.
Again, it does seem like they do not want loop to be prominent in the game. They want you to do your thing and then your turn.
Yep.
If you have the ability to regain your turn one time, I think they're okay with that, as long as you're not making 2 level 7s by doing so. So it's definitely one of those things where I just think they don't want loop decks to thrive. And Kazuhamon is definitely the most efficient of that. I mean, the rest of them do fairly similar things, but Kazuhamon was definitely the most efficient one at it. My alt arts are very sad, but it's fine. We still get to play that in our own custom format,
Yeah.
so not gonna ban it there. The loop deck I will be happy to not play against. I
Yeah,
think.
that it seems fair.
So that was all the restrictions.
We did have the restricted pair of Mother and Shoto.
Good riddance.
We all saw it coming.
Good riddance.
I don't think it's a big surprise.
So many people are
15k
upset.
blocker every turn.
on turn 2.
You're not gonna miss
Yeah.
something like that.
So if
Unremovable.
Yeah. So if you don't know what Mother is an egg. 15k DP. That is unaffected by your opponent's Digimon's effects. Or by your opponent's effects altogether.
Opponent's effects
Yeah.
can take.
You can't Gaia Force it. No one's playing Gaia Force, but you can't Gaia Force it. You can't delete it with any effects or a bounce or anything like that. You could swing into it with Raid, but you gotta beat 15k.
You gotta be 15k.
And there are some decks out there, and I think there's a genuine argument for there's some good decks out there who are able to do that. Like the RP Imperial Digimon deck doesn't care.
Yeah.
It just swings into it. Obviously, it's already got Raid built in, so it doesn't care. But I think it's a gatekeeper combo to a lot of decks that just genuinely can't get through a 15k blocker. And then obviously to get the 15k blocker, you use the Shoto from I think that was from EX7 or 8. I think it was 7.
So,
But anyways, use that Shoto that would unsuspend one of your Digimon and give it... Well, it would only unsuspend it if it was a Vortex Warrior, so it doesn't unsuspend. But it would give one of your Digimon piercing and blocker. It's supposed to be for the Vortex Warrior deck, because it unsuspends a Vortex Warrior, so that you could swing it with Vortex into a Digimon and it still has blocker. But obviously it doesn't have that hard
the
restriction.
community said otherwise.
Yeah, I didn't even think about it when the card was first spoiled. That was not even crossing my mind. But and ultimately, it's healthy for the game not to have that in
I
here.
think so.
It was definitely unintended. No one was seeing this, and you can see them trying to fight it. We got the new D Reaper Zone card that was printed that says you can't have any other colored cards on your field when you play it. They can only be D Reaper cards. So obviously that was already trying to print cards that said, "Do not play Shoto in this deck." But I think Shoto was doing better than D Reaper Zone was in the deck. So maybe now we'll see some D Reaper games that I don't think D Reaper's going to do anything, but maybe we'll see it again.
I'd
with
love it
D
to. I'd be
Reaper
real
Zone.
happy if it
Yeah.
did. But
I mean, it's getting cards randomly. You know, we got Fake Jerry, we got the D
Yeah.
Reaper Zone. You know, we got all these random cards being printed for it. But yeah, we'll see. We'll see if it ever.
we
Got
have-
mine off me way back.
Yeah.
We have the full antagonist set coming, so
Yeah, Sinister Order sounds like it. Maybe we'll
Could
have
be
something
there.
in there. You never know. But yeah, so that's restricted. Now, what didn't get hit?
your favorite
We
card.
saw it.
Your favorite card?
Galaxy Loop didn't really see any hits.
Now, like you said, it's a harder deck to run. It isn't seen as often as Tau Loop was.
Yeah,
Is that why they're not dealing with it?
yeah.
It's just skill level.
Right. I think that is part of it. We did see this deck take a hit during the last restricted ban pair when they banned the ban pair between this and 3 other cards so that they couldn't loop as easily. Now, that deck was oppressive. I understand them restricting those pairs, but this isn't so oppressive that it's not beatable. And I genuinely think you need to be a good player to play this deck.
Right.
And maybe they do see that. Maybe that's why they decided to leave Ko and Sayo alone. But
I mean, was that deck topping a lot before? Like, was it one of the big ones?
You would see it every once in a while, but I think the thing that people thought is they saw it less as of Galaxy Loop, and they saw it more as a Mirage Galgamon Galaxy
yeah.
Loop. And then obviously, you know, that wasn't the problem card, but you know, maybe they thought it was.
Right.
You know, and very few people are sad to see Mirage go. Like, there are a good handful of people who are genuinely sad that Mirage is gone, but a lot of people are happy. Turns out that wasn't the card that was making Galaxy Loop as strong as it was.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, who knows? We'll probably see it in the future if it keeps continuing to see more tops. You know, with all these restrictions that we just got, if it consistently takes more tops now because it didn't see a significant restriction, and we start seeing more big tournaments come through, and we see like these really good players start bringing the deck, and they do very well with the deck. So only time will tell, honestly.
Yep.
You don't see it at locals. At least I don't see it at locals. You don't see it much on with Digimon Meta. It is on there a good handful of times, but it's just definitely one of those decks that it is very strong, just not very
Not easy to play.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
So
So
only time will tell.
Yep.
I don't think there's much merit in like being upset that it didn't get hit, but
Yeah.
it is interesting that it ended up winning, and its only restricted card was one it was only playing one copy of anyways. So
a couple other things from Cardfest we'll come back to, because since we're on Digimon, we had, was it Digimon Day?
Digimon Con.
Digimon Con
Yeah.
had right after Cardfest.
Yeah,
We
about
got
a week
one
later.
Big thing out of that.
So the biggest thing about what we got us for TCG news is Digimon is finally getting a client, an official client,
Supported.
mobile at that.
Digimon is getting its digital monsters.
Yeah, wild concept that like.
So I guess, like, what does this mean for
So
the game now?
So, what we want to do is we want to compare it to other card games in the space. The biggest, easiest one to compare it to is Duel Links. For Duel Links, we actually see Duel Links tournaments. You see, Konami hosting specifically Duel Links tournaments. Duel Links has its own format too. It's not exactly the same as the actual the actual Yu-Gi-Oh formats. So it has like this completely separate ecosystem. So we'll see if that happens with Digimon. I bet that is the model that they're going. I don't think they're doing the pocket route. Obviously, we've got a full game client. We saw in the trailer. Venomon let us know we're playing the full game. It's 10 memory. We're not seeing like some 5 memory low to the ground BS.
3 cards. That's
So we're not seeing a dumbed down version, which is cool. So to me, that definitely shouts that we're getting something more like the dual.
It's not like the little Pokemon TCGs.
Yeah, Duel Links.
Well, that's also like on the quick side of that is they have separate tournaments for Pokemon Go and they have separate tournaments for TCG Pocket. So I mean, you can do this.
I think that we will see the rise of the mobile client tournaments. I think that's going to be a big one. Now we don't have too much information. By the way, this is Digimon Alysion.
Alysion.
So we'll see where this takes us.
Not a lot of info yet.
Yeah, we just don't have a lot. Yeah, we saw in the trailer that they had BT1 cards, but a couple like BT2, BT3. And we did see one BT5 card, and Blitz Omni was in their hand. So that is hoping that we'll get the full thing released, at least at some point. Right. Maybe we'll get a beta that only has like the first 6 sets or something like that. Or maybe we'll get a slow trickle of sets being released. And it would be kind of interesting for them to do that and like get to experience sets 1 of Digimon back in the day. Because I started back with when BT6 was already out and BT7 was just releasing. Honestly, EX1 got me into Digimon with the classic cards.
I remember when we see it was their little case breaks.
Yeah, it was very interesting to see, but we missed all of the first, the very beginning of the which is much different than how we experienced One Piece. So it would be interesting to go back and see how those formats. But I don't know if that's what they'll do, but we'll see. It's gonna have its own story mode to it though, that you get to play.
That's cool.
Now they introduced a new Digimon named Gemmon. And people are like, Gemmon, that's just going to be, gems are going to be your currency, and now you're going to spend premium currency in gems. And we'll see if they're right or not. He's got this cute little gem on his head that's going to be your currency. So we'll see. Now, as long as it's not super predatory like a lot of these games, I don't know Duel Links that well to tell you if that's super predatory or not. But so only time will tell. Yeah.
I would say with all of Duel Links, it's like you can get currency by just playing like their little story mode.
Yeah, and I'm hoping that's the same.
Yeah, which I'm gonna guess so.
Yeah, I'm excited because
like your daily challenges and
if we can get an AI to play Digimon against, and so I can just jam games with an AI that's actually good at the game because Huang Zero's got a bot match thing that they do, but it's real. No offense, but it's pretty stupid.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if we can get some genuinely good AI to play against, that would be cool for me because I would love to test wildly stupid things.
Right.
So it's definitely got a lot of merit for me. So.
Sure.
Yep. So other than that, back to Card Fest. Only real 2 others. Union. Didn't see too much. Saw the Full Metal Alchemist 3 stars.
Oh god,
getting
so excited about that one.
The Elric 3-star and the Mustang 3-star look good.
Always spending some money on those if I don't get one.
On the English, it wasn't an English Bandai Card Fest. It wasn't structured to us. We know the release date.
We already know what we're getting.
Yeah, we already know our year. They just kind of confirmed some stuff with Rurouni Kenshin, which is the other simultaneous we're getting. Full Metal. They are getting a couple cool ones. They're getting ReZero as a set later on. Unique artwork. Showed some. Looks good.
Yeah.
Right.
And they're also getting Monogatari, which a lot of old anime watchers will see.
Interesting.
But
I think was that the one that we saw the guy in the crowd get super excited about?
I think
no, that is To Love Ru.
Oh, To Love Ru, right?
Yeah.
That guy was ecstatic.
That guy was so happy, like
he was having a good time with that one.
Yeah.
But English side, nothing to really talk about. It was a Japanese Bandai Card Fest, mostly focused on them. So, not much there. The other one we would have had some see is Gundam. They did a demo match, used some of the red cards. looks pretty good.
I'm excited for red. I think I genuinely the 3 colors that we've been playing right now are fine, but it's definitely lacking a little bit more spice to it. I think red definitely would bring that to it.
Yeah, I mean, it's just more versatility. I mean, with everything, I mean, One Piece didn't start with all their colors, and neither did Digimon.
Digimon
so
didn't either. We
it's
didn't
just
get...
like
It's-
being able to play the base 3 in a beta format's cool, and then being able to play a new one is also really cool.
So do you think that possibly means that we'll get more colors in the future?
Oh, for sure.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
I
I
think
think
I
it's
think
just
we'll
a
get the
Bandai
I
thing.
think it's
I think we'll
gonna
get the
be-
Bandai 6.
Yeah.
I think it'll be the
I'm gonna
Bandai
say
6
it's
for
gonna be
normal.
pretty much the same.
Yeah, it will be hard to say. I know for Union Arena, yeah, that's kind of like a weird stepchild for
It's got
for
5
Bandai.
colors.
The colors don't really matter a whole lot, I think, as far as...
They matter for deck construction because you have to stay within the IP within the color.
Yeah.
Because well, you don't have to, but you generate that
Yeah.
color.
I've tried
as
to build
energy.
off color.
But the only other thing, color triggers are universal. Yellow color trigger will always be rest a character, it remains rested. Green will always play a 2 energy card from your hand onto the field. Purple is play from trash rested on the front. or
Okay, so
active
even
on the
Union
front.
Arena has the
So-
same core concept of...
Yep, but
colors.
they do only use 5 colors.
Okay.
That's the only difference.
You think Union Arena will ever get more colors?
Not unless we ever see them actually print a 3rd volume of something.
True.
That's true.
We haven't
Yeah.
seen one set have all 5 colors yet.
Right.
True. Yeah,
So-
I guess. Yeah, Union Arena is in a. It's definitely its own beast. But as far as Gundam goes, you know, I have high hopes for it. Hopefully, we'll see more variety in colors. I mean, Gundam's a huge franchise, so they have
Yeah.
Plenty of room. to
tons
work
of
Let's say
IPs.
with their like whole, you get a you can get a deck, you get a little Gundam figure.
Oh,
and,
yeah, the
like,
little
that
figures.
whole-
Yeah.
yes, all
Yeah.
that.
Yeah,
I think that's gonna be really cool, and some of the people who aren't in the game but like to build Gundams probably helps them get into the game.
True.
So
Yeah, we'll definitely keep an eye out. I don't think we'll talk too much about Gundam for the next few months. We'll probably bring it up here and there whenever.
upload
Once-
some content
yeah.
of it.
Um,
We'll have a couple games, but once Learn to Play starts, I believe, in May or June.
June.
I think early June. Local shops will start having Learn to Plays. So we'll probably start talking about it as people start getting more hands-on with the beta cards that we have.
yeah.
Yep.
So that's pretty much all we wanted to talk about for this podcast. I think we're going to try to do a podcast a month, talk about all the big things that happened in the previous month, and then we're going to end, I think, with talking about what's coming up. You know,
What to expect in the next month? For the next
Exactly.
month.
so
we got
for One Piece, what do we got coming up next month?
April for One Piece, we will have offline regionals and store championships. So
okay.
The first with
first
the
with
ban
the new
list.
meta, OP 10 English, whatever we want to call it, 10.2 because we don't have EB yet. We're really make it 10.5. So,
So I guess we'll see.
so
we'll see how
we'll
those
define
go.
our meta until EBO2 this
Yep.
month.
And then with Digimon, like we said before, we've got regulation battles coming up. We're gonna put some content out for that because we want to showcase a little bit of what you can expect out of regulation battles if you go to your LGS and play. So we'll get some of that content out. Like I said before, I built 5 decks for it, and we'll see how all 5 of them do.
What was regulation again? What was
So
the big
regulation
difference?
battles are going to be common and uncommon. Some people know it as Pauper. You know, if you're an old school card player. But yeah, it's just going to be commons and uncommons. That means no rares, no super rares, no secrets, obviously. But it also means no promos. So you don't get to see stuff like memory boosts and trainings in this format. So it's going to be very interesting.
a little fun niche format.
Yeah, and it's only going to be a month long. It's only going to be the entire month of April. I think it starts literally March 31st and goes until the last day of April, if I remember that correctly. So it's just going to be like this one-off thing. It's similar to how we got they did the one color only decks back in the day. So we'll see if this is as interesting as that. I think so.
Sounds like it.
It brings the power level down a little bit, makes you feel like you're playing a little bit more classic style Digimon, back in the day. So we'll see how that goes. As far as Union Arena goes,
It's not technically a set releasing in April. Sword Art's starter deck is technically the last week of April. Set itself isn't until the first week of May.
okay.
Just happened to be how the 1 week difference falls. So probably not gonna go over much with the meta into April. So
Okay.
probably a little lackluster on Union for April. As for Gundam, we already kind of said it. Gonna try to get. We do have the beta cards. We'll try to get a couple multiplayer games.
Yeah, I mean, we're not doing a lot of content because it's very limited of what types of decks we can build and what we can play with.
It's very limited.
Yeah.
We've still got 4 months. We have quite a time until it comes out, but since we do kind of focus multiplayer on the channel with partners,
Yeah.
we'll try to get a couple of 2v2s, free-for-alls.
I think
Probably won't see very many one-on-ones.
I think we've deemed that 1v1s right now are just they're too solved. We've got the low to the ground rush decks that just absolutely dominate our testing, and and it could just be that we just genuinely do not have enough cards to know how 1v1s are going to go.
I think Red helps with that a little bit because of
Plus,
what
actually
it
having
does.
full starter deck, full set
Right.
later
Yeah.
on. So
we'll definitely see some more 1v1s later down the line when we have. But we'll definitely interested in showing you guys 2v2 format and free for all format, which I genuinely hope that Bandai does support this in the future. I think they will, but it's hard to say.
They have it on the rule book. They have it in the rules for specially supported.
It's
that's
mostly
what
gonna
they
be-
showed the game off as.
Right.
2v2 at Orlando
I
were on
hope-
stage doing it.
I hope that's their main format, what they're going for.
I
I
would-
think it'd be so
I would hope
cool,
so.
and it's so different from what every other card game has done.
Right. I think the problem is going to be the player base.
Yep.
If the players aren't going to get behind a 2v2,
Right.
it's going to be hard. So we will see if players will get behind a Bandai-supported multiplayer format. So we'll see.
other than that, couple OP10 games coming out soon.
Oh, we've got BT21 for Digimon. Should be out by then. Want to get a partners match for a couple of the new ones. So if anyone has suggestions on that, we can pick a couple decks out of there. Yeah.
I think that's mostly it, though.
So we'll wrap it up there, and I think we've got a lot to talk about in the future. I think we are very interested in seeing where this podcast goes, and thanks everyone for sitting around and listening. If you got this far, subscribe to the channel if you like what you see here. If you are interested in some Digimon Partners content, we'll have more of that out here soon. And just stick around and see what we've got. Anyways, we'll see you guys later, and we'll talk to you in the next one.
Thank you.
Later.